When an emperor died, his concubines faced a terrifying unknown. We are about to uncover the dark and often untold fates of the women in the Imperial Harem. You will learn the shocking truth about what happened after the funeral, from forced seclusion to unexpected paths to power. This journey reveals a chilling side of absolute power that history books often gloss over. Why were some women buried alive while others became the most powerful people in the empire? What does the treatment of these women tell us about the true cost of absolute power? This world of silk and shadows was a kingdom within a kingdom. Within the sprawling palaces of the Forbidden City or the opulent chambers of the Ottoman court, the Imperial Harem operated under a rigid and unyielding hierarchy. At the very top sat the Empress or the Valide Sultan, the emperor's mother, a figure of immense authority. Just below her were the high-ranking consorts, women of noble birth who held official titles like Gaifi or Cadin. Then came the numerous concubines, often selected for their beauty or talents, and finally, a vast army of serving maidens and eunuchs who attended to every need. This structure was a pyramid of power, and every woman within it knew her precise place. Their entire existence revolved around one man, the emperor. A single glance of favor could elevate a low-ranking concubine to unimaginable heights, while a moment of displeasure could mean ruin. This created an atmosphere of perpetual competition, a silent war fought with whispers, gifts, and sometimes poison. They lived in breathtaking luxury, surrounded by jade, gold, and the finest silks, yet they were prisoners in a gilded cage. Their every movement was watched, their every word noted by the eunuchs who were both their servants and their jailers. Their lives were not their own, they were possessions of the throne. This total dependence on the emperor's whim is the key to understanding the sheer terror that followed his death. Their entire world, its rules, and its very purpose vanished in a single moment. The emperor's death plunged the harem into a chilling silence, but for some women, the funeral was only the beginning of their service. One of the most terrifying fates was to be sealed away with him, a practice known in ancient China as xunzang. This was human sacrifice, a ritual where concubines and servants were put to death to accompany the emperor into the afterlife. The belief was that he would need his attendants in the next world, and these women were considered his property, even beyond the grave. We have records of entire processions of concubines being forced to drink poison or being strangled before being interred within the massive burial mounds. The first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang, was said to have been buried with a vast number of his childless concubines, a dark secret hidden within his famous terracotta army. For those spared from immediate sacrifice, a different kind of living death awaited. They were sent to guard the emperor's tomb complex, vast estates built to honor his memory. These women, often the younger or less favored concubines, were condemned to a life of perpetual mourning. They would spend their remaining days within the cold, echoing halls of the tomb temples, performing endless rituals, cleaning monuments, and praying for the emperor's spirit. They were fed and clothed, but they were utterly removed from the world of the living, forbidden from remarrying or even leaving the sacred grounds. It was a gilded cage exchanged for a stone one, a life sentence of solitude for the crime of having once belonged to the emperor. This grim concept was not unique to China. In ancient India, the practice of sati saw widows, including those from royal families, voluntarily or under immense social pressure, immolate themselves on their husband's funeral pyre. While the motivations differed, with sati being tied to ideas of spiritual purity and wifely devotion, the underlying theme was the same. A woman's life was so intrinsically linked to her husband's that her existence without him was considered incomplete or worse, a burden. Across cultures, the message was chillingly clear. These women were seen as possessions, and a possession must follow its owner, whether into the afterlife or into a life of seclusion. Their value was extinguished the moment the emperor drew his last breath. Yet within this rigid system of sacrifice and seclusion, a secret path to power existed for a select few. While many concubines faced a life of obscurity or death, the mothers of the heir apparent held a unique key to survival and dominance. Upon the emperor's death, if her son ascended the throne, a concubine could be elevated to the formidable position of Empress Dowager. This was not merely an honorary title, it was a seat of absolute authority, especially if the new emperor was a child. Suddenly, the woman who once lived at the emperor's whim became the de facto ruler of the entire empire, the power behind the throne. This staggering transformation required immense political cunning, a deep understanding of court intrigue, and the will to make ruthless decisions. Consider the legendary Empress Dowager Cixi of China's Qing dynasty. She began her life in the Forbidden City as a low-ranking concubine, one of hundreds, yet through her intelligence and ambition, she not only captured the emperor's favor and bore him a son, but she also masterfully navigated the treacherous waters of the imperial court. When her young son became emperor, Cixi orchestrated a palace coup with a co-regent, seizing control. For nearly half a century, she effectively ruled China, dismissing princes, appointing loyal officials, and commanding armies from behind a silk screen. Her story is a breathtaking example of a concubine turning the system's rules against itself. To achieve this, a dowager had to build powerful alliances with court eunuchs and ministers, often playing factions against each other. She had to be a strategist, a diplomat, and sometimes a tyrant. She could not afford sentiment in a world where a single misstep meant destruction. This ascent from a dependent woman in a gilded cage to the most powerful person in the empire was a dangerous and rare gambit, but it proves that even in the darkest corners of history, human agency could flicker and then blaze into an unstoppable flame. But for the vast majority of concubines, the path forward was one of quiet erasure. They were neither sacrificed nor elevated to power. Instead, they faced a life on the fringes, their identities dissolving into obscurity the moment the emperor was gone. Consider the childless concubines. Without a son to provide for them or to champion their position, they were often viewed as nothing more than a financial burden on the state treasury. A political liability, their very presence a reminder of a bygone reign that the new administration was eager to move past, so they were discreetly removed. Many were sent to distant, government-maintained estates on the outskirts of the capital or deep in the countryside. Here they lived out their days in comfortable but profound isolation, supported by a small pension but stripped of all purpose and status. It was a genteel poverty of the spirit, a life sentence of being forgotten. Others found themselves forced into the quiet halls of Buddhist nunneries or Taoist temples. Taking religious vows was a socially acceptable way to remove these women from the secular world. They would shave their heads, exchange their silks for simple robes, and spend their remaining years in prayer and meditation. While this offered a form of sanctuary, it was rarely a choice made from devotion. It was a state-mandated retirement, a way to ensure these women remained chaste and out of sight, causing no trouble for the new emperor. In some dynasties, however, a concubine's fate was even more unsettling. A practice known as inheritance saw these women transferred to the new emperor's harem, or bestowed upon powerful princes or high officials as political rewards. This was not an act of compassion. It was a cold transaction, a way for the new ruler to consolidate power by binding loyalists to him through the symbolic possession of his predecessor's women. Think of the sheer psychological weight of that transition. One day you are the consort of the most powerful man in the world, and the next you are handed over to his brother or son, or to a general who helped him secure the throne. This practice blurred the line between human being and heirloom, reducing a woman's entire existence to a political tool to be passed from one hand to another. It underscores a brutal truth. A concubine's social standing was almost entirely tied to her connection to the living emperor. Once that connection was severed, she became adrift, her value recalculated solely on her usefulness to the new regime, if she had any at all. These intertwined stories form a tragic mosaic of how women became collateral damage in the grand design of imperial power. Their lives were not their own, their fates dictated by a single man's last breath. From the ritual horror of the tomb to the quiet despair of the nunnery, their experiences reflect the societies that created them, a society that saw women as property to be managed, honored, sacrificed, or discarded based on the political and spiritual needs of the state. The few who claw their way to power, like the formidable Empress Dowager, are the brilliant exceptions that prove the grim rule. They mastered a system designed to break them, but their stories of triumph cannot overshadow the overwhelming narrative of loss and silenced voices. For every woman who became a ruler, thousands more simply vanished from history, their identities erased by the machinery of the court. Their collective legacy is a haunting reminder of the human cost of absolute power, a cost paid most often by those who had the least say in its exercise. We would love to hear your thoughts on this dark chapter. Let us know in the comments which of these fates you found the most shocking, and if you are intrigued by history's hidden tragedies, be sure to subscribe as we continue to uncover the deepest secrets of the past.